It's Wednesday, August 22nd, 2012.
Soon enough.
And we would like to invite the band to lead us in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
I got two of them as ministers.
The board's vision is that Richmond Community Schools will be a high-performing, well-respected public school system that will make the community proud. Excellent student achievement, graduation rate, and attendance will be our hallmarks. On to public commentary. The Board of School Trustees recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on corporation matters. So we've set aside two 30-minute periods for public comment during each board meeting. The maximum time for individual speakers is 5 minutes per person. Comments recognizing the work of staff and students are always welcome. However, critical remarks concerning specific school personnel or students are to be made through the complaint process available in Policy 9130. If the public comment reflects inaccurate or incomplete information, the superintendent may clarify the facts after the public comment section. If more investigation is needed, the comment will be clarified at the next meeting. If the issue is a personal issue and not of general interest to the public participant will receive a personal follow-up within the week. Public comments requiring no research, investigation, or review may receive response from the board and/or administration as appropriate. Mrs. Stewart, do we have anyone signed up to speak?
We do. Nick Wilson.
Mr. Wilson, welcome. Hi, Nick.
Howdy. My name's Nick Wilson. I have two students in Richmond Community Schools, and I'd like to just talk a little bit about the busing issues. Hindsight being 2020, now that I know that Mr. Coddington is running the busing or supervising the busing, I know it will be taken care of. If he runs the busing any way comparable to how he does the finances for the school, we're lucky to have him there in that position. As a parent, the busing has greatly affected me this year because we split the routes, and that prevents my 7-year-old from being able to come home on the bus because he's no longer able to ride with his older sister. And at 7, we don't feel comfortable having him there, so we just pick him up. I understand that the busing issue was a big concern for a lot of parents this year. At the very beginning of the school year, it seems to have settled down and smoothed out greatly. I think the reason it was such an uproar was because as parents in Richmond Community Schools, we've never experienced the degree of problems that we experienced this year. I understand, Bob described it perfectly to me earlier, it was a perfect storm. I know that a lot of work and effort and overtime and volunteering went into changing all the schools around, and that was a major, major undertaking. I am confident that the busing issue has probably already been resolved or is very close to being resolved. As a parent, I have the luxury of seeing both the good and the bad when it comes to picking up the students this year. I am picking my daughter up now at Hibbard, and the pickup situation there is, in my opinion, terrible. I don't know if anybody's gone by and taken a look at it, but you'll have 50 cars parked 4 blocks blocking one lane of Northwest L. It does run smoothly. Once the kids start coming out, the line moves pretty quick, but it's just, in my opinion, come wintertime, we're probably looking at a dangerous situation with drivers not paying attention and the cars being stopped so far back. There's always that chance for an accident. I know that we can't solve the problem anytime real quick because there's still building going on and a road being added and a parking lot being added, but maybe Mr. Stevens could communicate with RP&L and maybe have an officer, if time allowed, sit back there with some lights on, or even come out and just put a barricade up for 20 minutes a day so that oncoming traffic knows that the traffic stopped. Now, on the good side, that's Elizabeth Starr Academy. The renovations for the parking and the student pickup there is working out great. In the days that I've been there, maybe 3 or 4 cars are out on the street waiting to roll through. That addition has just basically solved the problem there. And like I said before, I know that with Mr. Coddington running the busing now, those issues are probably taken care of. And I really love the design for the entrance to Hibbard School, because as of now, there is no true entrance at that school. And that will make a world of difference and make it seem a lot more inviting for the students, the staff, and the parents. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mrs. Stewart, is there anyone else signed up?
No, not at this time.
Okay, thank you. And we're on to snapshots of
We're on to
success.
snapshots of success, and we're pleased to be able to look out on this group and see the high school band. We're recognizing the band tonight for its accomplishment for this summer. And we have our personnel who are in charge of the band, employees, also here. And I'm inviting all the directors to come up. I see 4. I'm not sure if I'm seeing everybody. But would you all come up and introduce or talk about the experience and maybe introduce the individual students?
Would you like the students up around here as well?
However you would like to do that,
Okay.
Mr. Bettner.
My computer isn't working.
Oh, you don't need that.
I'll start with just some introductions. Terry Bettner, the Director of Bands here with the Richmond Community Schools. Nathan Rigsby, to my right here, Associate Director. Terry Runnels, Devolette Director, and Andy, I was trying to say Rodell, Andy Wise, just got married this summer, along with everything else going on this summer, but decided to have a wedding in the midst of it as well. But if I could just a few quick words about the program. I mean, it's a whirlwind. Again, I can't believe we're up here in front of you again, and we sincerely appreciate the recognition. It means a great deal to us that you take time to do this at the start of the school year. The students, we figured, put roughly, I think we figured around 275 hours in of marching. You consider the scorching heat. We give them, we were very nice this summer. We gave them all of 2 weeks off. I guess one is after State Fair, so maybe that doesn't count so much, but I'll count it for right now. But when we look at the placings and history and things like that, you know, that's kind of second in line when we consider the success we've had just in the whole teamwork philosophy overall. The students really put in a ton of time. They worked together. We had about 125 students when it was all said and done between the winds, percussion, and Devolette program. And for placing as close to first as we did, we were a point and a half behind. We placed third. 500ths, again, it's a number that's going to haunt us, I think, a little bit, because we were second last year with 500ths behind first. But with 41 new members, had never marched before, getting used to the idea of how to move their feet, how to play an instrument at the same time. A lot of students come into the program being worried about even being able to walk and chew gum at the same time. And so for some of the things that they're able to do by the end of the season, the sense of accomplishment that they have far surpasses any placing. A lot of that works out on its own, but the students, we're very proud of what they did this summer. But it's not only the directors and staff, but we have great kids, great parents, and great support all around. So we just wanted to make sure that we said thank you very much for that tonight. I'm going to guess that you would love to talk with the students tonight as well. I'm going to have our band captain, Russell Zimmerman, come up here. And if you'd like the students just introduce themselves first.
Yes.
And if you'd like to have anyone else, Russell, come on up.
Proclamation.
I think it could be afterwards. Okay.
Hi, my name is Russell Zimmerman, and I'm the band captain.
Whichever side you guys want to filter in, just come on up and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Tanner Peterbowl, and I'm the assistant drum major.
I'm Cole Ballin, and I'm the head drum major. I'm Louis Schroeder, and I'm the assistant percussion captain.
I'm Brendan Cavanaugh, and I'm the first sergeant.
I'm Brandon Leith, and I played the solo this year. So.
I'm Caitlin Doyle, and I'm a librarian. And I'm Leanna Murphy, and I took the pictures this year. I'm Chrissy Yukon, and I'm a junior officer.
I'm Chaselyn Piper, and I'm also the junior officer.
I'm Samantha Strunk, and I was a senior officer.
I'm Ashley Mills, and I was also a senior officer.
Thank you. Are you getting a picture of that, Bridget? Are you able? We also have a proclamation Mrs. Morgeson would like to read.
I would be honored to do so. Whereas the Richmond High School Marching Band placed third in the Indiana State Fair competition on August 3rd, 2012, and whereas the Richmond High School Marching Band has placed in the top 6 at the Indiana State Fair competition for the last 5 years, and whereas head band director Terry Bettner, associate band director Nathan Rigsby, Devilette coordinator Teresa Runnels, and Devilette assistant Lindsay Schroeder, and their staff have created among the members of the Richmond High School Marching Band an expectation of excellence. And whereas the Richmond High School Marching Band, through its consistent success, has created a standard of excellence to which all students in Wayne County and the Richmond Community School Corporation should aspire, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of School Trustees of the Richmond Community School Corporation congratulates and commends Mr. Terry Bettner, Mr. Nathan Rigsby, Miss Teresa Runnels, and Miss Lindsay Schroeder for accepting the challenge of excellence. And further, be it resolved that the board extends to the members of the Richmond High School Marching Band our sense of pride in their accomplishments and our congratulations for a superb performance. Adopted this 22nd day of August, 2012.
We have to make a correction on that.
Yeah.
There is a correction. It's the same correction that we had last year, I believe. Andy Weiss.
Wise.
Okay.
Lindsay Schroeder was in charge this year.
Right.
Go ahead.
Because Andy had other things on the docket, such as a wedding, Lindsay Schroeder, who graduated 3 years ago, stepped forward and spent every rehearsal there. And then Andy popped in whenever she was able. And
So
Lindsay
does the
went to bed.
proclamation read the way it should read?
That would
Okay.
be fine, yes.
All right.
Yes.
We could add a voice.
Thank you. Yeah, we could, I mean, you could add
Andy.
an addendum or, yes. All right, thank you.
We'll add a PS.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions for band members?
Well, I think we need to hear from the band captain. He carried that big trophy, so he should at least, how was it that day? What was exciting? Just talk a little bit about the experience.
It was very nice. I know in the morning show it was around 100 degrees, and the two drum majors were wearing
Wow.
tuxedos all day. So that shows the kind of dedication that we had. Well, other than 2 months of practice, we performed in 4 other band shows other than State Fair throughout the months beforehand, and actually placed first at the Centerville show in early June. And I'm really proud of all the young marchers, especially the freshmen and even middle schoolers, who went from, just learning how to play their instruments to not only playing their instruments well, but also marching in time, facing the front, all of the things that make a good band. I also want to thank the directors for all the work they've done. I know they're actually already thinking about shows for next year and all that. So all the texts that came for band camp and all the experiences that we could have at band camp, those were really great, and I know all the senior members of the officer line will remember that. So.
Ask him, will you all perform this Friday?
Yes, we'll be performing this Friday and next Friday at the football games.
At halftime or before or?
Halftime.
Halftime, okay.
With roughly about 40% of the band being new this year, what were your expectations in June, and what were your realistic expectations in June, and how did the evolution come about with your surprise a couple of weeks ago?
I don't know about all the other members, but I still expected a lot of the new members. I know all the years beforehand we've had new members that have always stood up to the challenge and been able to take on what we ask of them, and I think the freshmen this year did a really good job of listening, concentrating, all of that stuff. But still, that being said, I don't think we had ever won the Centerville show right off the bat, so that was a nice surprise for us.
Linda?
Well, I am very proud of all the band members, but it's especially thrilling to see a couple of my former students, one of them being Russell and one being Caitlin. And I have to tell a little story about Russell because I had him in.
It's a good thing you can't see.
I could tell stories about Caitlin also. But since Russell is the band captain, I need to tell this story. I had him in first grade for literacy. And anyway, we had read a story, and we made carrot pudding. And so I had this nice chart made, and we were doing a survey. And I'm telling this because obviously Russell had the skills in first grade, obviously, to become a captain. It was showing even in first grade. And anyway, I had this nice, neat chart already prepared, and I had the question, did you like carrot pudding? Yes, no. Now, mind you, these are first graders. And so we were going to chart it, whether they liked it or whether they didn't. So Russell says to me, well, what if the answer is maybe? And I said, well, you know, we're just going to put either yes or no. And Russell, as persevering as he is, he said, well, I still think that it should be maybe. And so I changed my chart so that we could add maybe. And do you know that even Russell didn't choose maybe?
What a wonderful story. And Russell, that's for posterity because it's on TV. And it will be taped, and everybody will see that story. That's wonderful.
Other comments?
Just how proud we are of all of you. The performances there in the morning and the evening, especially in the evening, I just really enjoyed being there. Just the presence of the band. Also, thanking all of your parents. Mr. Leith, I had your father in my cabin for a couple of years. Okay, I was his counselor anyway, but that's another story. But all the parents and all the community that went out to, that was a great time. He was a great help, you know. And I won't get into those stories.
Oh dear, we will.
But what you do in representing Richmond, and we say this every year, but what you do in representing not only Richmond High School or Richmond Community Schools, but the community is just very well reflected, even when you're walking through the State Fair promenade areas and they see a Richmond shirt on, oh, that's the Richmond band and everything. You know, the goosebumps, even for those people who walk to support you, are very evident there. And we really, we can't say enough of our thanks to you and our support.
Do we have a video from the...
So we get to watch it?
Yes.
We do. The show was entitled Now You See It. What we wanted to do out on the track this past season was to create a magic show. And the boxes that you will see on either side, we actually had Brandon perform the solo from one side, and then the box spins around, the classic move, all of a sudden he's gone, and he makes his way magically to the other side, to the end of the second part, and spins around, and he's on that side. But there were these gigantic boxes, though, that started with a design idea, and then it led to literally hours and hours. You'd mentioned about the parents. Yes. The parents put in so much work on these boxes. It started with just PVC pipe, and I'll tell you what, it could pass for like a David Copperfield show, I'll tell you. So the parents were just absolutely amazing this season. But we'll go ahead and show the video to you as well.
Turn the lights down.
Nathan Rigsby and Terry Ronald. The show is entitled Now You See It, with a repertoire of Pursuit, Let Me Fall, and Aurora Awakens. Well, let's awaken now to this champion band from Richmond, Indiana, the Red Devil Marching Band. Now you see it.
Thank you, that was excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much
very
for
much for
bringing
having us
that
here
and for
tonight.
That was even better than I remembered it, and I thought it was very good.
The most fun was watching their faces watch themselves. Did you get goosebumps? Did you? Yeah.
I have a question for you, Mr. Bettner.
Yes.
Maybe this is something that should be brought up at other times, but the public may have this question too. The first place was awarded to a band that played very well and marched very well, but didn't do it often at the same time. And is that
Is that a politically correct way to ask the question if we were?
well, the question is that a new trend, not to play and march at the same time?
That's probably a very good way to put it. Different things come and go. I've seen it go where there's a lot of body gesture type things, and what seems to be coming around these days, a lot of voiceovers. There's new lighting effects. There's all sorts of different things, and we see it as kind of, they come and go. But I guess what I look at, if we can put a show together that is solid marching, solid playing, the props and the glitz and glamour that way are all extras, and we feel like we have that. It's when it's appropriate to add, we'll certainly try it. But I like the good old fashioned just marching and playing.
Bravo.
Okay, I really do. And what I'd like to say, I guess, for all of the groups out there, I mean, they're all working so hard, and when I get together, usually it's about my once a year stop where I catch up with all the other directors, like, hey, how you doing? It's just kind of the handshakes and see you next year. But and we share ideas and things like that, and they're all class act individuals as well. And some of those directors, in fact, Winchester's director, I had the opportunity to work with, I'll say a long time ago, just coming out of college, and he's a great musician, but he can't say enough things about the Richmond program, and he has said that there's just a real noticeable change over the last 5 to 6 years in particular. Just he said, you're coming around. He said, you guys as a whole keep doing what you're doing. He said, because you're doing the right thing.
You'll have a lot of members back next year with
We certainly will.
40%.
We certainly will. And
That's
Mr. Rigsby and I
great.
were just talking about the growth that we're going to see at the intermediate buildings as well, where we were seeing before 30 to 40 members. You know, once the transportation issues kind of got resolved with getting the kids there, we're seeing numbers that could potentially be 70 kids at each building.
That's awesome. Wow.
It's going to be a great thing. It's
Nice.
just, you know, we're looking at a lot of these changes this year as a huge positive for a lot of programs, but, you know, we're gonna look specifically at the music department, and there's going to be some great things down the road for us as well.
Nice.
So,
Very good.
But
Thank
thanks
you.
again for having us here tonight. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
And you all are number one in our book.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well,
Always.
and that was politically correct way to ask that question. I thought that was very appropriate. I think Brian got it, too.
Poor Brian.
We're ready for the public hearing.
Yes, we're moving on to our public hearing, so I'm going to close our current public meeting and open the public hearings. The purpose of this hearing is to offer the public an opportunity for comments and questions regarding the 2012-2014 capital projects plan, the 2012 to 2023 school bus replacement plan, and the 2012 budgets. Mr. Coddington, Director of Business Affairs, will present the information, and then we invite questions at the conclusion of each portion of his presentation. Mr. Coddington?
Thank you. We have presented the CPF plan 2012 to 2014. We've advertised Form 3 and the CPF plan in a local newspaper. In this public hearing, we're gathering further input on the CPF plan, and I entertain, are there any questions or comments from the community on the CPF plan?
I see no comments or questions. Any from the board members? No? Okay.
Thank you. School bus replacement plan from 2013 to 2024. We presented this plan to the board. We've advertised the bus replacement plan. Again, we're having a public hearing to receive further input on the bus replacement plan. Is there any comments or input that the public would like to give?
Comments or questions from the public? Thank you, Mr. Coddington.
On the budgets, 2013 budgets, we have presented the budgets to the board. We've advertised on Form 3 of the budgets. We now have a public hearing, and we would entertain any questions or input the public might have on our general fund and our other taxing budgets.
Are there questions on the budgets? Okay, then I need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Aaron Stevens makes the motion. Suzanne Darengowski seconds the motion. All those in favor? Please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Well, we'll move back into our business meeting then. And we are on to reports and discussion topics.
First week of school activities is what's on the agenda. And this is going to be an informal presentation. I don't think it's possible to capture all that went into that first week of school at the Richmond Community Schools. But I'd first like to say that it was a week like we've probably never had before in a first week because of all the reorganization that took place, the buildings that were under renovation, that were opening. And what I've asked cabinet members to do is just to reflect on some of what they saw in that first week. I will say, and I'm just going to list a couple, just a few activities that took place. In the first week, even on Sunday night, before the first Monday that we still had people working at Crestdale in the library, trying to get the library into some kind of a usable function. Dixie was over there pushing her own sweeper that she brought in to work on the carpets. We had a little crew in there working to get those shelves ready and move tables together, and we appreciate the extra work that our maintenance department, thanks to Mr. Coddington's alerting them to do. They actually came out on Sunday. We were working to get that in place, and the good news was it was ready for Monday morning. That kind of extra effort took place, though, all over the district, because it wasn't just that we were opening Crestdale. It's that we had reorganized almost every staff. And teachers were still finding their way through boxes and new shelving, new desks, new rooms, and they were ready to go on Tuesday throughout the district. And whether it was the flagpole ceremony at Charles or the KOM exercise on Monday morning at the high school, we had some extraordinary work by a lot of extraordinary people to make sure that a quality experience was opening up for thousands of students here in Richmond. So first off, I'd like to say thanks for all that extraordinary help that went towards that effort. But then we also had a number of adjustments that we had to make, and while we're not going to focus on the adjustments, I will say that it's been good attention to detail that has taken place since then. Mr. Coddington, you want to talk about some of the first week activities from your perspective?
I sure do. Buildings and grounds, if you don't think the whole staff doesn't work 24/7. I got out of church on Sunday. I turned my cell phone on and there's a text from Dr. Borff. We need help at Crestdale. Can we get a maintenance person there? This is at 12 o'clock. I called John Hamilton, the second ring. He answers the phone on a Sunday. I asked him, is there anybody that we could get out to Crestdale? He said, I'll get back with you. He called me back within 5 minutes and said, we'll have a person there within the hour. And that's Mike Yount. So that's a kind of responsiveness, not just from the top, but from everyone in this organization to get it ready for school on Tuesday. And if that doesn't send chills down you, that can happen on a Sunday within an hour, that's pretty impressive type of group that we have working for us. Buildings were ready on Tuesday. We held school. Teachers were there. Buildings and grounds were looking good, and I'm proud of that. School lunches, Maggie was there with 3 new kitchens, opening there and making sure, now they weren't hot lunches that first day, but making sure that students got fed their breakfast and lunch. Now transportation. Really briefly, I will say that we had late buses. I will say that we missed some pickups Tuesday morning. But what I really want to say is, you look back, no child was ever in danger. Safety was number one. Safety of students was our top priority at all times in lieu of efficiency, which meant we were late and there were concerned parents that said, oh my goodness, my child didn't get off at the right stop because we were late. Now, with that, what have we done? And we could have that. The first thing I'm very proud of is, one, the bus garage has sent 2 letters home with parents. One letter saying, we're going to be contacting you with my name and phone number. I'm going to be calling you. So those 2 letters have already gone out. We now have a bus driver and a phone number. We found out that they were way too anonymous. It's bus 33. No, it's not. It's a bus driver, and they've got a name, and we've got to do this, and we've got to start that connection. So within 1 day, with the responsiveness of student transit, they were in the process of getting 55 track phones. Now, can I talk about that if we want? I mean, so the president of Student Transit went to Walmart at 7 o'clock on Thursday, because he was here on Thursday, had 55 track phones in there, had a credit card he pulled out. They said, we cannot sell you to those, sir. Homeland Security restricts how many track phones, and if I would sell them to you, you would be put on a terrorist watch list. So that took a couple days. We did not have the phones the next day, but everyone has a phone now, and it will be posted on our web page. It will be shared with every principal, and it will be shared with every parent. We're going to enhance the communication.
So
with the bus garage.
So the parent will have the number of the bus driver?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's where the first contact should be. What we found, when no one can handle 1,400 telephone calls in 20 minutes. I want to let you know, to be ready for Tuesday, that we had 14 people. We had 4 people on computers and 10 people answering the phone at 5:30 in the morning. and that wasn't enough. But we're going to take care of that. The other thing that we've done, the green card will be passed out as soon as we get them back from the printer. And this is a principal pass, so we can be responsible and responsive immediately. So we have a lot of transient and a lot of people going different directions on different days. We've got to get some order to that. So very much all the principal has to do is I want Johnny delivered on this bus at this time at the closest stop, sign her name. Is this a permanent change or a temporary change? Hands that to the driver. When they have that, we'll deliver them where they ever need. The driver will take this back and they will enter it in the computer on what needs to be done if it's a permanent change. So I'm very pleased at where we are today compared to where we were Tuesday. And that's my update on the first day of school.
Thank you.
Dr. Parker?
Okay, well, most every year before the first day of school, I can't sleep. I love the first day of school. And so Tuesday I visited schools and I got to rock a crying kindergartner and I got to carry a crying girl into a first grade classroom. She settled down. I saw teachers ready to go. And throughout that first week and even today, teachers are just working really hard on getting into the routine, teaching kids the routines of school, teaching them, the rules and how they do things. And I saw things going really smoothly. On that very first day of school, I went to the Hibbard Program Building, and the students were involved in an activity where students from all three groups were put together into mixed groups, and they were on a scavenger hunt. And they got to go and ask questions of all the teachers and all the support personnel in the building. So all the students got to meet all the adults in that building, and it was really fun to watch them.
I'll go ahead. I kind of focused on the intermediate schools, and so tried to get into every classroom at Tess, Dennis, Hibbard, whether that was during the school day or at the open houses, and just curious on how all that would play out and work out, especially for our 5th and 6th graders. And what I observed, students doing very well, very excited to be at the intermediates, and the staffs. I want to commend all the principals and teachers for just trying to anticipate issues. We can't anticipate all of them. I know Dr. Borf and I met with both principals early in the week, and we talked about just trying to maintain programs that existed at the elementaries, and Mr. Mobb said, well, which one? Because we are blending philosophies from 9 buildings into those 3 buildings. So it really, though, has worked out very well. And I think parents, I could see the anxiousness at the open houses, but by the time they left, I could see they were really feeling much better about things. And also, they were making positive comments. I have a 5th grader in my family, and I think there was concerns there, but all positive comments right now, and other parents have made those statements. So I'm sure there are issues that will need to be resolved, but that's kind of what I looked for this last week.
Mr. Tidrow?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about technology. It seems like the last 2 months we've lived here. Mr. Coddington mentioned that they had to call somebody in. We have 3 of the guys that were here that day. So 3 of the 5. They put in a lot of overtime. On a couple of the board meeting nights, excuse me, they came in on their blue jeans, T-shirts, did their work out there, went back there and changed into their nicer clothes to do the board meetings. But very proud of what they've done. We had 4 students from the high school that came over and helped us, and one of them left early at the end of July to go to school down in Texas. But we're very proud of what they did. They learned a lot of things. They learned how to crawl under desks and unplug things, carry things, but they also wired the Hibbard building for us, patched that down. They also worked with Mr. Nash and Mr. Redmeyer to patch down Baxter. We rewired the whole building there for the community youth services. We also put together a brand new lab at Hibbard, a brand new lab for Baxter for those students. They've never had that opportunity in that situation. We moved the Vail lab from downstairs to upstairs, and that sounds like an easy task, but you have to go through the wiring. You've got to work with Mr. Slifer's brother to get the electrical moved. You've got to work with the, get the data moved up there, renamed. Mr. Hazelbaker took care of that for us. And we, one of the things I was really pleased with, this may sound minor, but at Crestdale, we got a new lab in there, of course, and the desk went missing. They were some old desks that had wheels on them, and somehow they became obsoleted. I showed up thinking, well, we'll have to scrounge around and find some tables. Our guys went out, found matching tables, took the wheels off of them, and found footers from ones that were Highland, and now I think it's a really nice looking lab now, and they did a great job there. But we also, we now have smart boards, which are interactive whiteboards, in all of our preschool through 6th grade classrooms. Even in some of our intermediate level classrooms, we have them. We put in 70 new boards this summer, moved 28 from other buildings where we shut down those buildings, and we also transitioned, I think, 30 ceiling-mounted LCD projectors from Dennis and Tess, where we had them in the 5th and 6th grade classrooms. We had to move them upstairs to and to other places that are now the 7th and 8th grade classrooms. So we're real proud of what they did out there this summer to get ready for this first week. And so we've got some work to do, but we're going to continue doing that. I will also mention that the first training session for those smart boards happened yesterday at Charles. The full school is there. Mrs. Andrews was there, and Mr. Magoski led that training, so very happy. So.
Thank you.
And we have Wi-Fi in all the buildings, of course. We want to make sure everybody knows that. But
Mrs. Bergdahl.
Okay. I visited Crestdale on the first day of school, and it's really a great thing for our 3 life skill teachers that have the brand new rooms, and we want to thank Mr. Mays. He worked very closely with our teachers in life skills at Crestdale and also at Hibbard, you know, asking what their needs would be for the students, and really listening to, you know, what do you need in the classroom, and how will this benefit our students. So we appreciate his work. But they were just thrilled to see what they had in the classrooms, and visited the preschool special ed classrooms and the preschool classrooms as well. But it's just wonderful, I think, to see how far we've come in the days of, you know, Mrs. Parker, Dr. Parker and I both probably started out at the same time. Special ed didn't always get the best. We didn't always get the same. And I think the teachers really, really appreciate that we had that opportunity this time in the move, and I think everybody was very pleased.
Stuart?
I hope I'm not repeating anything that's already been said. I appreciated on that first day, and teachers did too, school staffs appreciated the goodie bags from food service that had snacks and a drink and fresh fruit. In fact, I've seen people this week still eating from the snack packs. The former librarians, retired RCS librarians, came back to help organize the libraries in at least 3 buildings. And it was great seeing them work again, seeing them again, and then working so quickly together to get things in order. And then on the very first day of school, I had the opportunity to embrace a parent and say, kindergarten's going to be just fine.
The parent, huh?
To the parent.
Like I said earlier, what we've covered isn't comprehensive. There are so many more stories to be told, but that's a glimpse. The first week activities.
Dixie?
I did want to say that Bridget missed a golden photo opportunity because it was my vacuum sweeper, but Dr. Boroff was pushing it.
Well, didn't you have a phone that you could?
And also, he carried out, I don't know how many boxes from the library, but I saw all of these folks in the building in their jeans working alongside teachers just as hard as everybody else. So
we've complimented lots of staff and all that, but I want to say something to the kids. I thought our kids really went with the flow on that first day and the night before.
They
And
did.
I think we have to recognize that these kids understood that there were some changes, but there was an awful lot of eagerness and willingness to jump right in. And I will tell you, the 5th and 6th graders I talked to said, we don't have to follow those baby rules anymore. But everybody seemed to be very pleased with where they were, and the kids deserve some pats on the back as well.
That's right, they do.
And the Baxter kids love their new building.
bet they
And
do.
I got a
Oh, it's
demonstration
beautiful,
first
yeah.
day on the smart board, this little girl, and I thought, wow, she was up
It
there.
felt like
just-
they were in a real school.
Yes,
when they were-
yes.
So-
And they kept telling me how much they liked their new place.
So we have to say thanks to the kids as well.
That's great.
Okay.
On to our report on Head Start and preschool.
Yeah, if you recall, at our last board meeting, we discussed implications of the Head Start application. Should we be successful in getting that application? We talked about some of the changes. Mrs. Morgeson asked about the relationship of the Head Start application, our thoughts on that with preschool, and then as we talked, we decided maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to have just a background on our preschool program, period, because it's also undergone some basic physical changes this year. And so Mrs. Bergdahl has been asked to talk about some of those changes and some of just about the program itself. So Mrs. Bergdahl, we'll turn it over to you.
I use this. Okay. All right. Okay, thank you, Dr. Boroff. I appreciate the introduction. It's been very interesting. As last spring we discussed about our office being over all the preschool programs, not just the special ed preschool programs. Kind of takes me back in 20 years when I was doing speech and language as a teacher and looking at all the facts of, working with students on language development things. So I want to tell you that as we talk about the preschool program, we really haven't changed anything as far as just the location, I believe. So did I just do this? No? Oh, there we go. Yes. Okay. Those of you who are around when the preschool program was developed and was located at the Early Learning Center, this was a vision statement that they developed. And I'll just read through it. About all children should have the access to quality preschool programming. Richmond Community Schools, in partnerships with the community, will help all children believe in themselves, respect others, and experience the joy of learning. And RCS recognizes the parents are their child's first and most important teacher, and programs that respect and incorporate parents, exiting skills, diverse cultures, languages, and life experiences will be the most effective. One of the statements there that really is personal to me was, I don't think kindergarten was considered preschool back in the 50s when I attended, but my father was actually my first teacher because I was unable to attend my first part of kindergarten due to some medical reasons. So when I read the fact that we consider parents as the first teacher, it just really is personal to me. So I want you to know, even though we've expanded a little bit, we've put our preschools into our elementary primary buildings, that the vision is still there. Oh, sorry. The locations of our preschool programs this year, we do have 4 classrooms at the Crestdale Elementary Building. 2 of those are the gen ed classes, and 2 of them are our special needs classes that are there. And they're very excited, I think, to be there together. Elizabeth Starr has 2 classrooms, so general ed classrooms. Fairview has 2 gen ed classrooms. Vale has 1, and Westview has 1. The tuition cost is $5 per session for the students. And again, we're talking about AM and PM, so they do not attend all day, unless the preschooler really has an IEP or if they're receiving assistance from free and reduced lunch. Transportation, our students this year because we weren't unable to have preschool in the Charles district, the students that have an IEP are being transported to our Crestdale program to be in the gen ed classrooms there of the preschool. So they receive transportation. All of our other preschool students living in their own districts are not transported. And then our special ed students that attend the preschool program in the special ed are transported to the Crestdale program. So how do parents and how do we have the enrollment that we do in our preschool? So marketing for the preschool program, as I talked to Dr. Parker this week, I have it down there at the bottom. Word of mouth is one of our best ways, I think, that parents talk to other parents and talk about the preschool program. But we also have Head Start that's from 3 to 5 year olds, the early Head Start program that's birth to 3 years. Our First Step programs, birth to 3 years old, but they're the ones that really identify our students that have disabilities. And then we do the conferencing and we do the transitions, and by the time they're 3, they're put on a waiting list so that they can be a part of our preschool program. We have birth to 5 that assist us in referrals, and then the community part actually received a call around July from a nurse at our pediatric center here in Richmond asking if they could have applications for the preschool and all the information that the parents receive so that they could have that in their office, because they knew some of their clients and patients had small children that would probably benefit from our preschool program. So in the springtime, when they were having conferences and talking about the program for this year, we had approximately 247 preschool students who were offered the slots for this year for our preschool programs. And then if you're trying to do the math, Dr. Borif and I talked about this afternoon, our gen ed classes in the buildings offer preschool Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, AM and PM. They also offer a Tuesday, Thursday, AM, PM. Then they also offer Monday through Friday, AM, PM. And then our special ed classes offer Monday through Friday, AM and PM. So when you're trying to figure those slots and how many students, it kind of gets confusing. But as of the 16th, we did have around 94 students that were on a waiting list wanting to be a part of preschool. As of today, we have 222 students that are enrolled in our preschool program just the first 7 days of school. So we're very excited about that. One of the largest areas that we have for preschool that has a waiting list is Vail. And so we'll be watching that area. It's just because there's really a large number of small children that live in that district, and it's an also very high mobility area. Once the preschool slots, if the students by the end of this week on Friday are not attending that said we want our child to attend, if those are open, then we will start filling those with the children from the waiting list. So Mrs. Taylor's already contacted the teachers and the preschool instructors and said, here are the names of the students who are next in line to fill those spots. We do monitor all the attendance coming in. We do that on Fridays so we can see who is ready for the next week to go up on the waiting list and attend the next week. Evaluations, we have 14 students at this time, not yet 3, and these are the ones that come from First Steps. And they will be doing the evaluations and we'll be putting them in the transition part once they turn 3. Screenings, we do those at Cresta. We felt that we've got 3 of our teachers, preschool teachers, Mrs. Urick, Mrs. Dickerson, and Mrs. LaFuse, Eldorego, who's out right now on maternity leave. But those are our 3 teachers that do the screening process, and they do that the second Friday of every month. Whoops. Okay. By the end of this year, we could have a potential of serving over 392 students in the preschool program. So I think that's saying a lot for where our programs are located and the opportunity that I think we as Richmond Community Schools provide for the community, for our parents. I think we forget sometimes that not all the communities have a program like we have with the preschool. And I know Dr. Parker has talked about the fact that it's very important. And I remember when the board was saying, this is important for us, just like the full-day kindergarten. We want to make sure we capture our students, give them opportunity for learning experiences very, very early. The curriculum, last year when we were working with Pearson, we actually were able to purchase 5 preschool kits, and then the company representative donated 5 kits. So we ended up with 10 kits, preschool literacy that everyone else was using. It would align with the same curriculum that the kindergarten was using. So all the books, the big books and the posters and the charts and the flashcards, all of those that the kindergarten use, our preschool teachers have those materials in their classroom. This was another important piece that we all talked about, was the collaboration of our preschool teachers with kindergarten teachers. So the proximity of our preschool classrooms to the kindergarten classrooms give that opportunity to facilitate the collaboration between the teachers. The building principal will be in charge of making sure that that all happens. But we've talked to our preschool teachers about, you know, working with the kindergarten teachers, so when our students go into kindergarten, that transition is very smooth. There's also an emphasis on the preschool assessment and the literacy assessments, and then we are using the DIBELS, the preschool DIBELS. We were also using the PPVT test, the Peabody Picture Vocabulary Test, I used when I was a speech and language pathologist. So we wanted to try to transition over and use the preschool DIBELS because it's a little more up to date. So do you have any questions concerning this? I think we're very excited about the locations that we have with our programs. One of the comments that I heard from a parent that called me was she was excited that her preschooler was able to attend the school where the other siblings were attending. So it wasn't like, you know, her preschooler, when they got out of preschool, was going to have to go to a different kindergarten. And last spring when we talked about to the principals, they were very excited to have the preschool in their buildings because they would know what the preschooler had learned in order to transition to the kindergarten. So,
questions?
Have any
Linda?
Questions, Linda?
Well, I have lots of questions.
Okay, all right.
First of all, with the possibility of the Head Start grant becoming available to us, perhaps, I realize that's a question mark.
Okay.
But are there thoughts as to how those two programs might be used to, are you thinking about how those two programs are compatible, or what might be done to capture the parts of the Head Start that we might want to think about for our own preschools, or are they going to just completely be separate programs? And
well, the Head Start is a separate program, so we know that. We feel that it's going to be an advantage that we'll be having more students be able to attend the Head Start program if we are granted, you know, the grant. But I think, I shouldn't say it should be separate. I think it's going to complement what we already have.
As the grant was, or as the application was written, I believe the curriculum will be streamlined, will be constant between the two programs. And one of the nice features of Head Start is the parent component. And I think we can learn and apply some of their parent component requirements to our own program. So in that sense, the parent component of our own program may take on some of the characteristics of the Head Start component.
Well, another thing that I guess I would like to learn about is that how many of our students, we know that we have 400 and some kindergarten students, and we know that the preschool experience for many of our students is critical. And so, you know, I realize that the numbers that you're giving are 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. And, you know, I guess I'm wondering how many 4-year-olds are we having attend our preschools or attend a preschool? And are we tracking that? And also, are we hoping to expand, especially for our 4-year-olds, and maybe, you know, are the needs there for them to be able to attend 5 days?
Well, one of the things that we talked about was that and the expansion part of it, if we could do something with the 4-year-olds, you know, that would be, you know, something that we would look into doing that. I know, Dr. Parker, we talked about that yesterday or today concerning your first part of your question. You know, we're making sure, I believe, that the program part of the Head Start issue with the students is that, excuse me, I got something in my throat. Kathy, you want to?
Okay.
Well, I can also address part of that. We do in kindergarten try to inventory the students as to where they were before they came to kindergarten. And we do track once we have them in kindergarten. Now, for 4-year-olds out in the community, it's really, we do our best to market. And as a matter of fact, I think we've done a very good job with 90-some students on the waiting, or was that what 90-some students on the waiting list? But we don't really know until they come into our building where they've been the year before they get to us. But we are trying to inventory that to our best ability. That's sometimes self-reporting and sometimes it's parent reporting.
And I know you'd started some kind of tracking, and we were going to track it this year. You know, like Dr. Borov said, either trying to ask the parent or the fact that we know they're already in our building, we know then where they come from. Sometimes it's the move-ins. When they come, you ask a parent whether or not they've been associated with a program or not. But I think the fact that, did you start something, Kathy, that you
Yeah, and
able to
we now
track
flag
last
them in
year?
Power School.
Right.
So we'll be able to do that. And I think, you know, maybe by the end of the year, we'll be able to see, as the students go into kindergarten, how much that benefits our kindergartners to be in our preschool programs in our own schools.
Linda, go ahead. That leads to my question. Have we yet found a way to test the accountability of our preschools in terms of how well they prepare our kids for kindergarten? Did you track that so that we know our kindergartners who went to our preschool, and do we know their scores on whatever it is that we give them at the beginning of the kindergarten, so that we can see how effective our preschools really are?
Yes, well, as you recall, every year when I would come and report on the
Right.
preschools, we would talk about our beginning of the year and end of the year PPVT scores. And those were probably best for us because a lot of our students didn't end up in our schools or they moved. And so we had very incomplete data when we looked at beginning of the year kindergarten data. But we have tracked those students all the way through as they've moved through their grades. And I think our first cohort is now in the 6th grade. And we've tracked their progress and kept an eye on those students.
And are they consistently ahead?
They consistently perform as well as or outperform their peers who didn't attend preschool. And again, when I say they consistently perform as well as, that's saying something because we had a large percentage of special needs students in that population. So.
But that would be an interesting thing to chart, because you have kids who've attended 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, you know, and so it's not apples to apples. However, it should give us a hint as to whether our preschools are as effective as we'd like for them to be.
And I think we're hoping with using the same curriculum and having that collaboration with kindergarten, we're also going to see some benefits there that our students, you know, will be on track. Linda?
I noticed in the information that you gave us previous to the meeting that there are 4 slots kept open.
For our special ed.
Is that at each site?
Yes.
So when do those slots fill up? I mean, how long do we keep them open?
Well, we're always out there trying to identify students that are being referred, but as long, we have to keep those open. We just have to keep those open for our special ed kids to be filled.
And
but, yeah.
that's because those 3-year-olds, they're eligible the day they turn 3. If they turn 3 on May 1st, we have to have a spot for them. And so we have to maintain some openings for those students.
I want to make sure that the public is clear on that. Not all students when they turn 3.
No.
However, just the
Students
ones
who have
with
been identified as students
through
with
the
an
first steps.
individual education plan.
Right.
Did you have a question, Jeff?
Well, they're actually kind of getting to the question that I had now is with 94 preschool children on a waiting list, then my assumption is those are students without IEPs.
There are not still 94.
No. They don't have the IEPs.
Whatever, I mean, that's the number that was
Yeah.
presented tonight. I mean, that those students have no IEPs.
Right.
The 14 that we need to add to whatever the waiting list number is,
They're being referred through the First Steps program.
right, that actually makes the
That have
waiting list
disabilities,
108, but those will take immediate
Right.
spots. So out of the 222 students that we have in our program now, how many of those have an IEP?
How do
is it
we-
like 70% or 80%?
Well, we also have students that have IEPs, like for speech, or they have delayed development language. They're in some of the gen ed classes. I mean, we just have those part of the gen ed classroom, so everybody has special ed throughout the district. For the Crestdale special ed classroom there for preschool, those are the students that's been identified with more involved disabilities and been identified by our 3 preschool teachers that have placed them in there for.
And I understand
Just
that,
right off,
but my
Mrs. Bergdahl, do you remember what the numbers are of those students enrolled in those preschool special ed classrooms?
As of right now, okay, I think we have about 4.
In each classroom?
4 in each classroom? Because my other question was the class
Yeah.
ratio.
What we're doing, by the end of this month, when the teachers who are doing their assessments, more of those students will be referred to that classroom. They can only have 8 to 10 at a time in the special ed classroom. The gen ed classrooms can have up to 15.
Up to 15.
So that just makes, it different.
Are all of our sites filled?
Yeah. Vale is closed at this time, and
Did you say
I
closed?
believe Fairview is getting pretty close, yeah. And we have waiting list, some are 31, some are 24, some of the other buildings, especially the ones that have only 1 classroom. Those schools have a big waiting list, so.
When you ask about how many of those students have IEPs in those classrooms, it's kind of a moving target at preschool because they actually talked about putting it in the law that you would want to have sort of natural proportions of kids who occur. And so you start out the year with 15 students in your class or 10, and maybe 3 or 4 of them have an IEP, and you're pretty natural proportions. And then the teacher notices that this one's talking a little funny, and this one's got a little stutter, and this one walks a little funny. And before you know it, you've got 6 more of those kids identified. And so you can start out with a natural proportion, and it kind of blows up.
Well, and the range of disabilities, I mean,
Mhm.
like you said, from speech to severe disabilities, that makes a big difference to a teacher too, or where they're placed or something.
I wasn't asking about because of how I wanted that percentage, but what I'm trying to understand, as a member sitting up here on the school board, we want to reach children, all children.
Right.
So, as I'm sitting here thinking, well, wait a minute, and I said the same thing last year, when I hear we have 100 students on a waiting list, you know, the first questions that come to my mind, how can we eliminate that? That's what I was trying to understand. If our current preschool program is set up where we have 60 or 70% that receive an IEP and we have to hold slots open, that's fine. But also, if I'm going to sit here and take a look at the classrooms, and I know that we want class ratios for Gen Ed 15 to 1 and class ratios for special ed 8 to 10 to 1, and you're telling me that we've got a potential of 108 to 110 students on a waiting list, 14 of which have to be placed when they turn 3, then a question that we need to ask ourselves is, do we have a room? Can we hire another staff person? Can we serve those students? And then that becomes part of the question of if the money and the financing, because we're not getting refunded from the state to pay for those students. So, I mean, I think it's important that we talk about that out in the open, because if we're going to talk about serving the students, okay, we understand that we don't get money for that, but we need a budget for that, because I personally don't like hearing that we have 100 students on the waiting list, and the 100 students that we have on the waiting list are the students that don't have IEPs. Therefore, where do those 100 students go?
Okay.
They go to private institutions, the places that we're in competition with now.
The reason some of those are on the waiting list is because in the preschool classrooms, some of the students who said they were coming last spring are not there. So we were trying to give the families at least until this Friday, okay, if your student's not coming, then we will take the students that are on that waiting list. And when you think about the configuration of the Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the 3-year-olds usually go on a Tuesday and Thursday because 2 days, and then the week, the Monday through Friday, and those are AM and PM, there are a lot of slots maybe for those students. So I think it's hard for us to think about, an all-day thing, and so we're thinking about one student there all day. But when you give those configurations of the different possibilities of how many students can be served, I think,
So that
I
waiting
can't
list
imagine the
should
waiting
change.
list being that long for.
In a couple weeks, you will have a
Right.
different number
So
on
in
the
a
waiting
month and a half, we ought to have the conversation about preschools
Again,
that are
yes,
waiting. Yeah.
so we're updated.
And I would have some numbers, like on, Monday or by Wednesday at least, how many of those slots were open and we were able to fill with the students that are on the waiting list.
So how many slots do we have open in the system now?
I wait until Friday to get what I have.
So we don't have any idea how many slots we have now.
We don't have a notion of that, a definite notion, because we don't know how many of those students will show up tomorrow.
Now, does Head Start go by those same guidelines? Does Head Start also have to keep open spots for students that will
Have disabilities.
They're required to serve a certain percentage of students with disabilities, but they're not responsible for providing services at the age of 3. We are, because of IDEA Part C to Part B. So.
The guidelines are just a little different than what our preschool.
That's not to say that we haven't placed students at Head Start. We have done that.
But if we didn't have a preschool program, then we would have to make that available through our special ed preschool. I mean, not all school districts have a preschool program.
Correct. A lot of school districts, for students who have a speech problem only, they'll just do drop-in speech. Parents will bring the students in for one speech therapy session a week, which we have found that our students make the best progress when they're around other children and they have reason to speak. They also tend to put what they call typical peers in with their special needs classroom. So if they have 8 special needs students in a special needs classroom, they'll bring in 8 students who are typically developing with maybe just a speech problem and have those be together.
Inclusion. Very complex.
Well, and we've all recognized how important preschool is. So I think we need to come back and have this conversation again, because hopefully those slots will get filled up. But if it's that important, we don't want any kid on a waiting list. So
It's a matter of determining where our resources go, because as has been mentioned, there is no reimbursement for that. That is simply something that must be factored into the budget. So any additional classroom, and we do have a couple of classrooms in the system that could be opened up for that. If enrollment doesn't take another turn in other areas, it could be done, particularly at Westview. There are some classrooms.
We charge for preschool per session.
We do.
How much does that cover as far, I mean, that does not go to covering
It doesn't, no, it doesn't cover very much of our expense.
Okay.
But if we're looking at it from our perspective, and I'm just trying to get an idea of what the resources would require, if our ratio, and I'm going to talk now of general ed students, because I'm going to assume that those are the ones that will be on the waiting list. If we could have a ratio of 15-to-1, even if we factored 5 days a week, whether they went 3 days or 2 days, it would change on their age. You're talking 15, 30 students for one classroom for a week, so that's 3 classrooms. So we could eliminate 100 students off of a waiting list probably with 2 classrooms.
I think it might be prudent to wait until Head Start opens their sessions to take another look at that waiting list, because a lot of families will get on both lists and then just not show up because they won't start until after Labor Day. We probably will see fewer students on it, hopefully fewer students on that list.
That makes sense.
And I think also the other piece that we need to kind of monitor too is the mobility piece, because they do come in and out. And so, you know, with that waiting list piece, we do have those slots filled when students move away. So that's, I mean, we've already kind of seen it this first 7 days.
Well, I think it's a wake-up call for us, because we talk about our preschool program, but it's not really set up to, we're not currently set up to handle all of our students. We're not really promoting, that's not the right word to say. For us to go after all students age 3 and 4, to get the 400 students that's going to enter the kindergarten, we're talking about a potential market of 800 students or more.
Mm-hmm.
So we're literally talking about less than 25% of the market that I feel like that we want to go after, and probably out of this 25% of the market that we have now, many of them are not in the Richmond school system or won't stay in it anyway. So that number could even be greater.
Well, we might have to prioritize also. I mean, you know, that's what we have to do these days. But also, when we're talking about the monetary part of it, yes, to set up a classroom, we can figure what that's going to cost. But when we figure what we might spend in the future if we don't get these children into preschool, then that is astronomical. I mean, because, you know, when you think about interventions and specialized programs and so forth that we're going to have to provide, if these students don't come with the skills that are needed, then that's expense for us. So we have to, I think we have to weigh it and look at it from
And we
both-
add to
both
that the
angles.
quality of the programs.
Yes.
And, I mean, I don't want to just make a monetary decision. I really want to look at whether those programs are doing what we need for them to enter
Look
kindergarten.
at that. Certainly.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Bergdahl. Now we're on to action items.
And for the action items, we turn to Mr. Coddington for presentation.
Tonight, we ask the board to accept the following donations: from Wayne County Foundation to Richmond High School for the early college mural painting, Dream Makers Basketball to RHS Athletics for donation to the athletic department, from Kyle and Beth Ingram to RHS Athletics for donation to the football camp, from Beard Masonry, Northside Security, Thor Construction, Carroll Electric, Leon Thomas Masonry, Commons Lumber, Georgia Direct Carpet, Chomelin Sons, all to Warner Maintenance for a donation to the back-to-school meeting and breakfast. We want to thank these persons, organizations, and companies for their very generous donations of $1,680.
Do I hear a motion to accept the donations as presented? Linda Morgeson makes the motion and Dixie Robinson seconds the motion. Are there comments and questions other than thank you on the donations? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Have you seen the mural?
Yes.
It's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
Transfer of appropriations.
Some time ago, we talked about a resolution being necessary to transfer some funds from our transportation operating fund to the rainy day fund. And tonight is the moment when Mr. Coddington will talk about recommending that actual transfer.
Yes, if you'll see the attached rainy day resolution, it has been posted on board docs. We've talked about it. We're asking for a resolution to transfer $1,025,000 from the transportation operating fund to the rainy day fund, understanding that there is no appropriation to spend this $1,025,000. It's just a transfer to the rainy day fund, so it will be there in case there's a need in the school corporation that we would come for an additional appropriation, which we do not foresee at this time.
Do I hear a motion to accept that transfer of appropriations to the rainy day fund?
So moved.
Jeff Slifer makes the motion.
Second.
Pat Heine seconds the motion. Are there comments and questions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Latchkey bids.
Thank you.
And for the latchkey bids, I turn to Mr. Millis.
We have before you a proposal from the Y-Care that we would like to have approved this evening for aftercare. We went through the formal process of advertising bids on 2 dates and then opened those bids on August 13th. And we received 1 bid. We're pleased with the bid. It does meet our needs. And you have the outline of the program and the fee structure. We currently would have that program right now at Charles, and we'll continue to evaluate if there's a need for a West Side site. And we had one last year at Westview. We were challenged with numbers, but we'll just have to monitor and see how that goes. But I'd ask for approval of the Y-Care agreement.
So moved.
Aaron Stevens makes the motion, and Suzanne Darengowski seconds the motion. Are there comments and questions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. On to our master plan.
Under the master plan, we've had several junctures at which decisions have to be made, and we're at some of those junctures right now as they pertain to the gymnasium at Dennis and additional parking and bus lots, bus lanes, I should say, at Hibbard. So this entails some design service contracts. And Mr. Coddington, I'll let you present those.
Sure. As we move forward with our building renovation plans, we need design professional services for these projects. The administration is requesting the attached contracts with Mays Design be approved as presented. To give you a feel, these are anticipated at 5% of what we believe the bids will come in at. So it's below market value of 7 to 8% at 5%, and it's just continuing with the relationship that we have and the continuity of the programming. Therefore, we recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the recommendation to accept the contracts with Mays Design for the Hibbard and Dennis gymnasiums as presented.
Do I hear a motion? Pat Heine makes the motion and Aaron Stevens seconds the motion. Are there comments and questions on this?
I just want to clarify, we're not doing a gymnasium at Hibbard. The Hibbard parking and transportation and the Dennis gymnasium, correct?
Correct.
With the way it came out, I thought, no, we're not doing a gymnasium. Okay, just clear. Just
Thank
clear.
you.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
And now we have a recommendation for permission to advertise for the Dennis gymnasium bids. Mr.
When
Collins.
we get the design work for the Dennis Gymnasium that you just approved for us to have, we would like permission to advertise for bids so we can get this project started and completed as soon as possible. Therefore, we ask permission to advertise bids for the Dennis Gymnasium construction project.
Do I hear a motion? Dixie Robinson makes the motion, and Pat Heine seconds the motion. Comments and questions on advertising the Dennis Gymnasium bids? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I did have one question on that.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So when will that gymnasium be done then?
Well, that's a good segue into Mr. Mays' presentation. We would
Okay.
like to see that gymnasium opened this school year, but he has.
So would Hibbert.
He'll have an
Or I mean,
update.
Dennis.
Yeah, he'll have an update for us on the total project. But remember that we, this is for everyone's edification, we have used the current Dennis cafeteria as a gymnasium, multipurpose room in the past. We've converted that pretty much to a cafeteria.
It's beautiful.
It's a gorgeous facility. That is posing some short-term stresses on the physical education program
Right.
at Dennis. We knew that was going to happen, and we're confident that will be more than taken care of when that second gym opens. But, of course, the second gym hasn't been started yet. So, Mr. Mays, would you like to come up and give us a project update and maybe address some of the questions about the timing and the sequence of events pertaining to the Dennis Gymnasium?
Thank you.
Right.
Okay, thank you very much. On the Dennis Gymnasium, we know when we had to do the renovation at Crestdale, we had a short period of time from the first week of June to the first week of August to complete that project. So we did have a lot of overtime, and it was just the nature of the project that we had to do. And there was a cost associated with that. On the Dennis Gymnasium, because of the monies that we have available, that we want to try to construct that in a normal construction schedule. Not saying that we won't put pressure on them, and because I'm saying that we could have that done and move in for spring break.
Oh.
We had hoped to have it done earlier, but again, through the design and so forth, it will be ready spring break.
Okay, well, you might, in clarifying that, let's clarify, we had to do the cafeteria because where they were eating was not officially a cafeteria.
A gym.
It was a gym, and it wasn't big enough for the new students, and so, I mean, there was a reason for moving forward.
Yeah, well, there were Board of Health issues.
Yes.
And there were safety issues. The state, in the exiting requirements, the state fire marshal's office, in order to feed the students that we had there last year, we had to store canned goods, bread, everything else in the main hallway, which was a main exit from the school. So we had to get rid of that, and so that had us then do the gym, the cafeteria first, and that I can say that the hallway is clear, and that the kitchen is working great. Now, a couple of things as far as that kitchen and cafeteria is concerned. If you'd walk out there, you'll see the old heating unit is still there, and we have a little bit of ceiling tile out, and that's because when the new gym is built, we're using the mechanical room of the new gym to house the new heating unit, and that probably in February we'll be taking that heating unit out and hooking up the new one in, so that the cafeteria will not be 100% complete until that time. But I was over there the first day of school, and I mean, it was working great, and the number of students that we had go through there, and 2 lines, and it's performing above what we hoped it would when we talked at that time of having the cafeteria
Just
there.
out of curiosity, have they always had the problem of
Yes.
Using their gym as a
Since I've
of
been here.
cans in the hallway?
Yes.
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 There was no other way to work it because they did not have an area, because where they picked up the food was in the hallway, was a concession stand, was the kitchen.
Yep.
And then they had to have other displays and storage in the hallway, so that when the meals were being served, there was not that much access through the corridor.
Mr. Kaler used to stand with a ruler for access, because you had to have so much room for access out of the building. It's been a horrible problem.
You mentioned the physical education program. Are we currently able to sufficiently provide all the physical education needs, education-wise?
Well, we're providing the physical education to, providing services to meet those needs, but they're not in as efficient or accommodating circumstances as we would like. For example, we're either going to have to double up on the use of a gym for 2 classes, which could be done. I mean, it can be done. Or we have one group outside. And while this weather has been so nice, that's been an option. But when the weather turns bad, we know that we have some accommodations to make that may compromise some of the breadth of our instruction. And we'll make it work. And you can do that when you have a short-term problem and know that something else is being developed.
The 5th and 6th graders, let's try that again. The 5th and 6th graders require physical education. How many days or how many periods a week?
I believe they're in a rotation, which would be 1 to 2 days a week.
So it's not quite the same as every day.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, and the other problem's been the intramural program.
Right.
It's played havoc with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know from just listening to some of the staff when we were talking about this at Dennis, that they do have appropriate programs for when it's inclement weather outside, raining or so forth, for the 5th and 6th graders to do, and some of the other 7th and 8th graders to do. So they do have a plan in place to be able to accommodate that.
Well, we have the same thing at Crestdale, because the gym is
That's
being
right.
Absolutely,
utilized.
absolutely. Okay, to talk about Crestdale, the renovation of the classroom area is 98% complete. The only areas that we have to do is a punch list items, corrections, paint, scratches, and fix those up, and a few areas in the corridors. And those items are being taken care of from 3:15 in the afternoon until in the evenings and on weekends, so that I can say that we do not have any construction on during the daytime in any of the classroom areas. Maybe one little exception in Jane Moss's library, which she's at Fairview on Thursdays and Fridays. We're working on getting her counter set up and a new top for that counter. Other than that, that will be the only area that we have contractors working during school hours. The new addition, completion date is on Wednesday, October the 24th, which is the day before fall break, and that we will move in to the building during fall break. Right now, the contractors, if you would go out there, the brickwork is probably 80% complete. The interior walls and door frames are up. We're completing the rough ends for electrical and mechanical, which are supposed to be done by Friday. And once that starts next week, we're going to start hanging drywall. The roof is complete, and the windows will be going in next week. So you can see that we are moving along at a rapid pace. Now, this pace, we're only working a normal 40-hour week. We're not doing any overtime because they really went over and above overtime during the classroom renovation. Talking about the gymnasium, we hope then that starting right after fall break. Those classrooms are out of the gymnasium. We have to put in new lighting, new ductwork, new heating unit, paint the walls, add a couple of storage areas, and that will be completed by November the 30th. So that on December, first week of December, we will be using that gymnasium for the purpose it's designed for. At Dennis, we did talk about the cafeteria. We are 99% complete. We still have some aluminum thresholds put down at the door openings, which are 4 of them. We do have some minor touch-up of paint. And then again, under the gymnasium project, we will take care of the ceiling area and the heating unit. At Hibbard, we're 99% complete. Again, final touch-up paint. We wanted to wait until all the classrooms were occupied, all the teachers have all of their equipment in there, because it's very difficult to keep door frames from being not scratched. And so the painter then will go in and fix those. But we do have the new heating and air conditioning units that we've been waiting for in the life skill areas. They've installed those. We're working on the temperature control, and those will be on and ready to go on Monday. We need to complete again a laminated top in the checkout of the library. And as you have said, I mean, we've had librarians working in there, and it looks as good as it did when there was full books. I mean, all the books are in the shelves, and you could walk in there today, and the library functions as a working library.
I'd like to add on that, we've had parents and board members working in there too.
That's right. And in all the libraries like that. The parking lot, if you'd go up there and look at it, it's 90% blacktop is down. Now we have to get the blacktop in on the driveway before we could pour that apron onto L Street, which is a city requirement that from the street edge to our property line has to be in concrete, and that now they're getting ready to pour that. And of course, there is a curing time. We have asked, and the contractor is willing to use what they call a high early, which means after 3 days we could drive a truck on it versus waiting a week. So that's a little bit of expense, but he's willing to do that. Again, working with local contractors, they're willing to do things. And then we're working on the steps going from the new parking lot down to the Hibbard building, and that by the end of next week it'll be 100% complete. And when everybody comes back from Labor Day, they can park in that parking lot.
So will that help? Do you think that'll help some of the congestion that Mr. Wilson was talking about?
It's going to relieve some of the parking in the main parking lot, which I think that we need to look at how we could get the cars in and back out.
And that's always been a problem at Hibbard, always.
Yeah, it has always been, but the thing that will relieve that problem is when we do next summer the bus drive around, and we are specifically addressing in that revised program of people driving in, half circle, dropping the students off, coming back out an entrance and exit, and then being able to turn right or left onto L Street. And so we are addressing those issues.
Thank you.
At Baxter is 100% complete. Star parking lot is complete. Test renovation is 99% complete, except for Jeff's wife's classroom, where we have 2 storage cabinets and and wall cabinets above a countertop for computers, and that will be done. We're just waiting on the delivery of the units. That's all we have to do. Maintenance said they would get it installed right away to take the pressure off, and that will be done.
To take the pressure off whom?
So that gives you the update of where we are today.
Well, thank you for all your hard work. I know we've all been in the
Yeah.
buildings and seen.
But, and I love the Hibbard floor. They've added the color
Yes.
spaces to the
And
Hibbard floor.
Baxter's beautiful also, but Baxter looks great.
Actually, too,
Community youth services.
we will be addressing some of that student drop-off entry when we do the Ron Robinson Memorial. And that we're going to do that, and that will be done before the winter time hits us. So it will be done by December 1st. And that we're going to be coming to the board, the first of board meeting, I think, in October, with the cost to do half of the project, which is the breezeway, the roof, and that area. And then the other half of the project is we have a lot of contractors that want to donate time and items to complete the walks, the brick, the benches, the retaining walls, and that. So that'll be a joint effort to have that completed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
On to our press conference. Any questions, Brian? No? Okay, then consent items.
Consent items tonight include the approval of minutes, recommendation by Human Resources, and we do have an addendum that has been posted. I would include that. Recommendation from Accounts Payable, a recommendation to file for the filing of reports, which would be the monthly financial report, and a filing of a report involving the assessment calendar. Now, I'd like to note to the board that the assessment calendar is a standalone item, but it's being factored into a calendar that we're still working on to try to show how the assessment, how the different reports, how different board topics come together to form a plan of work. So I would encourage the board to approve those consent items as presented.
Do I hear a motion to accept the consent items? Dixie Robinson makes the motion, and Suzanne Darengowski seconds the motion. Do I have any comments or questions? Linda?
Yes, I have a couple of questions about the assessment calendar. I don't know who to look at here, but first of all, I guess one of the reasons that I'm prompted to ask this is in working with Dr. Benjamin and in some of the information that he has given us to read. One of the things that it said that we should always know where our students are reading. And so I was wondering if our assessments from kindergarten through, I noticed through grade 10, if those assessments allow us to know whether or not our students are at grade level, and if not, exactly where they are. And I'm talking about reading, not skills. And of course, that would involve comprehension. So that's my first question.
Got two coming. Okay. Okay.
You want me to go ahead and do
okay.
that?
You want me to, I thought you were going to throw the other one, so I wrote it down.
No, I was.
It's interesting that you should ask that because we've been in conversation with both our intermediate schools and our high school about getting a handle on where our students are reading. And they have done some research and they have elected to use the Scholastic Reading Inventory for all students grades 5 through 11. And for students who are on level, it'll be twice a year. For students who are below level, it could be up to 5 times a year to get a handle on where their reading is. And as we had those conversations, especially at the high school, the comment was, once you know, then you are going to be accountable for doing something about it. So if we recognize students at the high school level who are reading significantly below grade level, we're going to have a plan to address that, and they stand ready to do that. So I just got the quote today on what it would be to add those seats. We're already using it. We used it with our 7th and 8th graders last year. We're just going to add the 5th and 6th grade, and then add the high school as well. Dr. Benjamin recommended that we do that. At the elementary level, our teachers are doing the assessments that are part of the curriculum, and we've talked about what can we do that is sort of separate from the curriculum, sort of a corroborating measure. we have grades K to 2, we have the TRC, the text reading and comprehension, which is basically a computer-delivered running record. And so our coaches met on Friday, and we talked about what other options they have. Obviously, running records is one that our teachers are comfortable with, and we can take that running record, and if they get a F&P level, we can convert that to a Lexile, because the SRS reported in Lexiles, which they're all just made up things. But the Lexile gives us an idea where our students are reading and matches to books which are leveled in Lexiles as well. So we haven't made that decision yet. I'm going to let the teachers give some input on that to say, last year what they had was basically on level, above level, and below level. And for a lot of kids that's appropriate, but a lot of teachers want to dig a little deeper into that. They want to have a little bit better handle on that. So we're looking at what we have available. And we do have lots of materials available. It's just having them give some input on what they think is the best thing to use.
Okay, good. And the other thing that I wanted to ask, I realize that the iRead is reading only, but is the iStep, does it still include writing, a writing prompt? Because I've noticed that there is nothing here. So how do we know how our students are doing as far as writing? Because I don't see any kind of assessment or writing prompt or anything listed for the assessment. So how do we know how our students are faring with writing?
Okay, we are still doing the writing prompts. What we ran into with the writing prompts and using the 6+1 traits rubric was you can't take that data and drill it down to a single score to report at the district level. For instance, if we expect a student to be at a 3 and all the students are at a 3, they're not at a 3 at every cell on the rubric, so to speak. So drilling that down to one score was pretty meaningless. So our teachers are doing those writing prompts, and they are collecting that data at the school level and then using it to guide instruction. We actually are going to convene a committee, get people who have some special expertise in writing to look at what's out there, to look at how we can get a handle on where our students are writing. It's just, writing is very difficult to measure. I know you know that, because it's a very holistic look at it. And to try to break it down into skills and to break it down into its component parts, it's very difficult. And so we want our teachers looking at writing, and we want them looking at it and making instructional decisions. But then to try to report that at the district level, it really didn't give us a very good indication of where our students were.
And how did our students, you know, we didn't really get a breakdown of how our students did in the different areas on the iStep. So how are our students doing as far as writing? And I guess I want to span that to the high school also, because that's important. Do we have an idea of how our students are doing with the writing piece?
Well, the applied skills component of iStep is where the writing is in terms of having them produce something. Our students did much better on that than we had anticipated they would. We were a little worried because we changed what we did, but those scores actually helped our scores. As you'll recall, last year the 8th grade writing scores got thrown out, and that, I think, hurt us. I think this year it helped us. I actually can compile that data and show you the multiple choice performance and break it down for you like that if you'd like to see that.
Pat, this leads to a question that isn't exactly assessment, but it goes along with how then will the Common Core standards impact the writing and what writing we assess? Because according to the Common Core standards, writing is going to be huge, especially nonfiction writing. So, you know, if we're going to all that trouble this year to look at writing, will we have to change it when it's time to go to the Common Core, or will that meld into that?
Well, we've all been following fairly closely the Parks assessments and how they are trying to develop those. When you hear people talk about the Common Core, they talk about it being narrower and deeper. So we're not going to cover as much, but what we cover, we're going to cover very deeply, which is great when you're a classroom teacher and you can do authentic assessment. But when you're a group of assessment writers and you're trying to come up with an assessment that measures that depth in a standardized group setting, we're all a little bit concerned about what those are going to look like. You know, our students are going to be asked to take a test maybe 4 times a year. That's where they started. Then they say, well, there'll be 4, but 2 will be optional. 1 will be review from the year before's material. So we're following what those assessments might look like. And of course, pending the results of the election, things could change again. So what we're trying to do is look at the standards and map our instruction to meet the current standards and include the Common Core standards that students are going to be held accountable for, building authentic assessments within the classroom through the work with Steve Benjamin and project work and research projects and deeper work, and hope that we prepare our students for it.
Good. Fun conversation.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the consent items? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. We are at that point, aren't we?
Yes, aye.
Opposed? Consent items are passed. And now it's time for our second public commentary. Is there anyone who would like to speak? Mr. Wilson?
I could never leave without saying something. This first one's going to reflect back to number 5, the public hearing. When we buy new buses, I was going to direct it at Ron Cross. When we buy new buses, is there a clause in the contract with Sodrel or Student Transit that prohibits them from using those new buses out, farming them out for, say, 2 or 3 years, so that we're guaranteed that our new buses are used strictly for RCS and not going to end up buying a new bus that goes to another community?
Well, it won't go to another community, but there is a program that we're a part of. It's called Rent Our Bus. For that, these buses can go 200,000-300,000 miles in a 12-year period. We have a 12-year replacement plan. They don't even go to 100,000 miles. So we get 35% of every dollar that they rent our buses out, and we like that. And that money goes to the general fund to help teach Johnny how to read.
Now, jumping ahead to 13. I have a celebration for you. On the first day of school at one of our middle schools, a group of girls who were previous students, there were 6 or 7 of them sitting at a cafeteria table. When they looked back and they noticed a new student, one girl, sitting alone at a table. These 6 or 7 girls, as a group, got up and went and sat with that new student. And then they noticed yet another one. So that entire group, including that new student, got up and went and sat with the second new student.
Those are great stories, aren't they?
Great. And you can pass the Kleenex now.
Thank you. For him too?
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else who would like to speak? Come on up and tell us who you are.
Hi. My name's Darlene Hofer, and I just have one concern. I know that it's somewhat fixed now since the beginning of school, but at Vail, the round tables that are in there for the breakfast and lunch, during breakfast time, there's not enough room. And I don't know why they didn't receive, like, the long tables that were, like, say, at CR and other elementaries. And where are them tables that were at CR? If they're not going to Vail, now that it's at max capacity, it's just not enough room in that cafeteria for them round tables. I understand Vail's concept on the round tables because it has them interacting more.
Right.
But at the same time, when a student's trying to go through 2 tables with a tray and it's still got chocolate milk on it or whatever, and it goes down onto a kid that parents work, who's going to bring that child a change of clothes? So I'm just wondering why they didn't receive the long tables like all the other elementaries have had.
Can you answer that or check into it?
No, I can't even.
Well, it hasn't been requested.
No.
And I assume that the tables are still at CR. And should that be what the principal deems necessary? we'll make that happen.
Yeah, we would make that available.
Okay.
It'll be a topic for discussion tomorrow morning.
So we'll have an answer from Mrs. Hofer. Right, okay. Anyone else? Okay, then on to a follow-up on old business.
I don't have a follow-up.
Superintendent and board reports, reflections, and celebrations. I want to jump in first and ask about the T-shirts, if anyone knows why these were at our places tonight, just to thank Elizabeth Starr Academy. And that was very nice.
I think that I've just heard them talk about Just One, and I think it was an initiative that they began last year. And it's about trash. If everyone would just pick up one piece of trash, then certainly we would have a much cleaner community and a much cleaner world.
Well, thank you to Elizabeth Starr for that.
If anyone has an extra large, I'll switch.
What is yours? I've got a.
It's a large.
Oh, I think I've got a large.
I think we have some, do we have some government students in the audience? Is that why you're here, Mitchell?
Nope.
You're here for some other reason, for scouts? Well, why don't you tell us? This is Mitchell A. House, in
Oh my
case you
gosh,
didn't know.
Mitchell A. House has grown up.
I thought you were here for government. We were going to sign your blue sheet.
No, I am, yes, my name is Mitchell A. House, and I'm working on my Eagle Scout right now, and I'm finishing up a couple last merit badges, and I've already done my Eagle project, so I'm actually pretty close, and I'm very excited.
That is exciting.
What is your Eagle project?
My Eagle project was I built a set of 9 Frisbee golf targets for Christ ambassadors here in Richmond, and it was a total time span of like 120 combined, or 120 some combined man hours, and I put in about 40 hours of welding, and I've got kids in my troop helping to bend the wire and help me paint the stuff, and I went out and I had to find donations to buy the chain and things like that, and so that was my
And those are the
project.
ones at the Christ Presbyterian Church that
No,
the YMCA uses?
They're at Christ Ambassadors. The YMCA does use them,
Okay.
but yes, yeah, those are them. So I was very excited. It was fun. It was a really good learning experience too. I had never done that type of welding before, and so I got to learn something new, and I got to have some really fun interaction with bring some of my kids in the troop into a machine shop and let them do that kind of thing. And so that was very cool.
Which troop are you a member of?
I am a member of Troop 119.
Okay.
Well, thank you for being here and good luck.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, Mitch.
Other board reports, reflections, and celebrations. I know we've celebrated all throughout the meeting some of the first week of school activities. So does anyone else have anything?
I would like to celebrate the staff's coming together. Someone talked about knowing about a fifth grader. I know about a teacher who had been in a building that was closed, and this teacher is now in another building where they have tried to blend those two staffs together. And she represents all the teachers who have been moved, who are doing a wonderful job of trying to get to know not only their new students, but their new colleagues, some of whom share classrooms with one another. I'd like to celebrate not only their work, but the principal's work. We've tried to incorporate some of what we learned through Dr. Muhammad, keeping in mind some of the communication that must be intentionally put out there to keep these staffs informed as they try to come together and work. And I have to tell you, judging from the retreats and some of the early faculty meetings, things are going very well. We have a lot of teachers who are working beautifully together and working hard to work beautifully together.
Kel?
Yes,
I'm sure we'll
Suzanne.
get a chance to celebrate more later, but I'm looking at a copy of the high school yearbook.
Oh,
and
that's beautiful.
It's another beautiful publication, so I just wanted to hold that up because, once again, you look at this thing and you just are in awe of what our students produce. So it's very cool.
And Mr. Millis?
I have a celebration. One of our teachers, Richmond High School, Tom Bartle, had the privilege of going to the Hoosier Salon exhibition and awards program. Tom won a major award. It's the premier exhibit in Indiana, and his piece is now on display at the Indiana History Center.
Oh, wow.
But that's a major accomplishment. You know, students have the privilege of having a master as a teacher, and
All of our
both
art
he and
students
Debbie
have
were
those.
just very thrilled that evening for that award.
Wow.
So I want to compliment Tom and his accomplishment.
Anyone else?
As I think back over all we've talked about, the one group we haven't said thank you to are parents. You know, the parents of our
Absolutely.
students have really stepped up, and we've asked a lot of them. And so we've tried to pinpoint and say thank you to a number of groups. But it just dawned on me, we haven't said, parents, we know that this has been a major change for you as
For
well.
everyone.
So, yeah.
That's the thing that's just
Everyone was
fascinating to me is
affected.
this, the magnitude of the changes we have made, which were very necessary and I'm very excited about, but it's pretty much touched everyone. And so I just, like you said, parents, good job, way to hang in there with us, teachers, students, every person that works here. I've just been so impressed every single day. And when I see them in the afternoon, teachers in the afternoon at 4:30 a lot of times, and I can tell they're exhausted, but they're working.
Well, and so many of them were helping
Yes.
with all of the transitions that were going on, and so many were helping solve problems. So I certainly think we need to do a big shout out to all of them for their patience and their understanding, and especially all their help.
Okay. Thank you.
This is the resolutions.